You said we'll let her go.
Yep.
I squelum nut. I squelum nala. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Hulkamunum speaking people, specifically the Quamitsun Village. Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside the Cowichan, Malahat, Sabasset, Hole, Penelakut, Stamanis, and Maxons peoples who've cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the unceded territories of their lands as we work together to lift up all the Hahas. Motion to adopt the agenda, please. Trustee Thorne, Trustee Schmidt, all in favor. Motion carried. Minutes of the November 25th. Oh, wrong one. Motion of the minutes of the April 28th, 2026 Board of Education Business Committee meeting. Motion to adopt those. Trustee Lise, Trustee Schmidt, all in favor. Motion carried. Delegations. George Bonner Elementary. Welcome.
By all means, use that wherever you like, and you can use that for advancing minutes.
Hi, Squale. I'm Quinnisim Nala. It's wonderful to see everyone again. Many of you I saw last week, so it's great to connect and be back. And to Jane Calverley, I'm the principal at George Bonner Elementary School. I'd also like to introduce Stella Morgan as the vice principal. We have two students here who are going to introduce themselves, so I won't do that work for them, but they're here as representatives of George Bonner's. They've sort of become famous faces at George Bonner because they've been the MCs at some of our events, including the talent show and the winter performance. So if you saw them at the winter performance, they were in their green suits matching, so they're good friends, and we're really proud of them and what they bring today.
You also may have seen them on the non-instructional day, because they did the land acknowledgement for the non-instructional day as well.
We knew they recognized you. We co-created a bit of a presentation with them and a bit of an outline, but essentially all this is their voice. So we're really excited. We're actually going to step aside and they're going to do the presentation for us on our behalf, and we'll be happy to share and answer questions for you afterwards. So just to confirm, I could just press this to do slides, is that right? Oh, or what would be the easiest way? Or can I take that to the side and get out of their way?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just get out of their way.
Yeah, do you want to?
Okay. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Antha Lincoln, I've been at Bonner for 2 years and I'm in grade 7.
And Antha Owen, I'm in grade 7 and have been at Bonner for 4 years. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Hulkamunum speaking people, specifically the Cowichan Nation. We appreciate the beautiful and green lands of the Cowichan Valley that Indigenous people have cared for thousands of years.
As students, we acknowledge our responsibility to learn about the histories and cultures of Indigenous peoples, and to contribute to a future built on respect, understanding, and reconciliation. We thank you for inviting us here today to share about our school. George Bonner Elementary School. Bonner Bears. We are the Bonner Bears. Our school goes from grades 2 to 7 and has around 380 students. Our mascot is a bear.
Amazing learning space. One of the best things about Bonner is our learning space. We are very lucky to have such a big, clean, and modern school. We have so much space to learn from our wood shop to both our gyms that really make our school special.
Very kind staff. Bonner staff is unbelievably kind. On my first day, I was given a tour of the school, and the teachers and staff were very warm and welcoming. I could tell they were really excited to get a lot of new students.
Sports and clubs. Don't worry, you'll never get bored at Bonner. Every year we have plenty of sports and clubs, some of which include soccer, dance, yoga, floor hockey, volleyball, badminton, D&D, art, Lego, chess, cross-country, basketball, Rainbow Club, and even rugby. Students are so lucky and privileged to have so much to do at lunch.
Proud to be a Bonner Bear.
Our acronym, the BEAR, stands for 4 things.
B, believe in yourself.
E, engage in your learning.
A, achieve your goals.
And R, respect everyone.
These are the goals and identities we are working towards.
We are working on becoming confident and proficient readers. These are 3 things that help us become confident and proficient readers. Literacy groups. Literacy groups is where we learn with students from different classes who have similar skill levels to us. Literacy groups teaches us strategies to make our reading and writing more efficient. Learning about words. This year we have been focusing on challenging vocabulary words and prefixes and suffixes. These help us with pronouncing and understanding large words in reading and writing.
Partner reading. Partner reading has helped out a lot with my pronunciation and fluency. And you get to use the skills you just learned from literacy groups and use it to help you in partner reading.
George Bonner's framework for enhancing student learning goals.
We're also working on being a responsive and caring school community. 3 ways we see this is supportive teachers and welcoming classrooms. Every teacher at Bonner is very supportive to our learning and can teach each student a little bit different so we all can learn better. Breakfast and lunch for everyone. Bonner's Cafe is something that is always there, whether it's a lunch or even just a snack. Miss Melanie runs the cafe so well, and even kids help her run it.
Bear groups. Bear groups is where different grades learn and socialize, encouraging kids to connect and socialize in a learning environment. We have been working to incorporate the history, culture, and language of Indigenous peoples into our days by classrooms learning about culture and history. In our class, we continue to learn about the language, history, and culture of the Indigenous people, including residential schools, Orange Shirt Day, the Indian Act, Red Dress Day, and so much more.
More language and land acknowledgements. Bonner has a very high respect level for the Indigenous language and land acknowledgements. I think this is something Bonner thrives off. Every morning there's an acknowledgement.
Relationships with communities. Bonner has an amazing relationship with the Indigenous communities. As an example, we have many elders come in and teach us about the culture and history, even inviting us for field trips on their land.
What we will remember and have learned from George Bonner Elementary. School events. The school events I will remember were going to Transfer Beach, playing on the rugby team, track and field day, Terry Fox run, and jump rope for heart. Believe in yourself. At Bonner, I have really learned to believe in myself, which is important because I want to be confident when I'm doing something and achieve my goals.
Solve problems independently. One of the most important things I'll remember about Bonner is how they taught me to solve problems independently. From problems with friends to conflicts with other students, Bonner has taught me how to solve them all on my own. Our feedback. Math groups. I had an idea to create something called math groups. Math groups would be very similar to literacy groups, where students would gather in different classrooms based on their skill levels to learn new math skills. This would make it less stressful for students who are struggling with math and challenge students who feel confident. This would also make it easier for teachers as they wouldn't have to teach multiple skill levels.
Student-led clubs. Another thing that I think Bonner should start doing is more student-led clubs, so they can be independent and encourage more leadership. And to be independent and have leadership, you need to be confident and believe in yourself, and that's what Bonner is teaching us.
And finally, exploratories. I feel that exploratories would be a great way to prepare grade 6 and 7 students for high school. Students could be in rotating groups once a week trying activities such as woodwork, tech, drama, gardening, and maybe robotics. We could make this possible as we have a wood shop, a garden, a computer lab, and several unused classrooms.
Thank you for having us.
Dias Tanasquel.
Have a good day.
I would like just to apologize because there was one slide that was missing, so it was our slide around how we're working to acknowledge Indigenous ways of learning and game, but you gentlemen did a beautiful job, and I just want to say too, I only gave them the headings, and everything else, they have mapped out all their ideas, all their suggestions, all their writing. It's really been a hands-on experience. it's very express, so we're just really proud of them. Well, for questions and things.
Questions? Trustees? Thornton?
Except Garcia. You carry the strength of the bear being the wise one, the strong one. Much like the Stakaya taking care of his family. To hear you say land acknowledgement is important for the community as a whole. I really appreciate what you had to say, how you said it, and you were both so calm. I'm going to take you home and you can talk to my children.
Trustee Souza, then Trustee Schmidt.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. Right now, I'm solo parenting these days, and I couldn't be there in person, so I'm here at home chiming in this way. So, but just to say that I really loved your presentation. I love the way you've put it together. And with presentations, it's like sometimes less is more. You just provided just the right amount of information, the graphics to make things pop beautifully, and I just loved it. And not to mention, of course, all the great work that you're doing at the school. Trustee Thorne mentioned the land acknowledgement. I want to further uplift that and say that I just, land acknowledgements these days unfortunately tend to be just sort of performative and repetitive and whatnot, kind of losing meaning. But the way you presented it with depth and with taking a sense of responsibility, which is what land acknowledgements are also about, was fantastic. And so I raised my hands to you and to you guys and to your presentation. Absolutely loved it. No questions, just to say, Haitsapka.
Thank you.
Trustee Schmidt.
I too raise my hands to these amazing young men. Thank you. We often talk about exploratories at the elementary level and so on and so forth, and it's always always nice to be schooled by the children. We often say that your voices are the most important voices at our table, and you guys have solved the problems that we always wonder, how can it happen and how can we do it? And maybe we should actually be looking at grade 7 classes a little bit closer in the future, but what you actually need and can it be accomplished? Because you guys had a problem that you solved and you figured out how it could be done, and I'm beyond impressed with this presentation today and how you two did it, and thank you to you and Dal for allowing these kiddos to just shine with those voices. You guys are going to be amazing leaders when you grow up. And so my curiosity question is what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you know yet?
Not really.
No?
Pro hockey player.
Well, then we'll be seeing each other again. Just well done, gentlemen, well done. Your future is so bright for what you did today and how you took that. And so I'm really impressed, so well done.
Trustee Lise.
Ditto to all of the things that my colleagues have said today. I also love that the idea of if our literacy groups are working so well, let's do the math groups. And if that is also coming from you as students, it's like, heck yeah, that is fantastic. And then what's also so exciting is that we have Francis Kelsey here, and you get to be so excited about who's coming up into your school to make it even greater as you go through those higher levels. So I always ask this question because I'd love to hear from you, but what are you most proud of in your time at Bonner? What are you most proud of?
Don't say recess.
I think for me, I moved from Powell River and schooling was okay there, and then I came down here to where I feel I've improved a lot more on those stuff, a lot more.
Awesome.
I think I found at Bonner I've learned a lot more about the indigenous peoples and the language and the history, which I think is great.
Wonderful. When I went to school, and some of us went to school, we had no education on that, and so to see where you're at today the world is gonna be a better place, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love it.
One question about all the lunchtime activities. Do most of your classmates participate?
I'd say maybe about half of them do.
Okay.
It's definitely an optional thing.
And I think there's a place where like everyone can go. They just, I think, choose not to. But if they had to go somewhere, they would definitely have a place to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your exploratories, what does the principal and vice principal say when you want more?
That wasn't nice.
What did you say? How can we make it work?
To be determined, I think. I did ask for their feedback because I think their voice is important. So it was one of the pieces that they gave us as feedback is that should be something that we should think about adding back into the school.
Yeah, it was a junior high.
Well, hopefully we can get something going there. Mr. Thorne.
You know, just to compliment your teachers in your schools, at all schools. Our province is way ahead of so many places. And you hear things like Indian Act, residential school, language. Really tells me that maybe one day, with all of the insanity that's running around now, you youth are going to be the ones to fix what we couldn't. And for that, I'm extremely proud of every student that's sitting in this room and every student in all of the schools, because you're an awakening. You're a truth. You're a reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. We really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Up next, Francis Kelsey, Mr. Kevin Vandermeer.
You know what? I thought I saw somebody peeking through there. Kiddos are right there, so they cannot pop.
Or you can even touch the screen.
So basically, this one is forward and that's exactly. Okay, good. Okay, all right.
Okay. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having us. My name is Val Baker. We are from Francis Kelsey Secondary. I'd just like to start by saying that we are very thankful to have our school on the ancestral lands of the Hul'qumi'num-speaking people, specifically the Malahat and Cowichan tribes. This is Mr. Vanderliden, our principal. This is Abby Simmons. She's one of our leadership students. Charlie Service, she's one of our peer counselors. I'm one of the co-presidents of student leadership. Mr. Brooks, one of our vice principals, and also one of the leadership teachers, and this is Ms. Butler.
Excellent.
Good.
So the first goal that we're going to talk about is a staff-generated goal, very grassroots for the last couple of years. We're looking at attendance and how can we improve attendance at our school. So we've done a few things, some learning about it, and then we looked at just our hallways. How do we get our students in from our halls? Well, we started hall passes that look like this that we changed. So now street data looks like our halls look a little bit different. Well, how do we work on students that are not coming to school? We worked on educating our community, parents, the why of why attendance is really important and how it is meaningfully impacting learning, right? If we don't have the bums in the seats, how are the students learning? And then we talked a lot about the boring stuff, like really clear policy, clear process, how we report on attendance, and then how are we going to gather data to see if what we're doing is making a difference. And so now we're gathering every 10 business days data points to see if there has been an increase. So over the last couple of years, there has been an increase of in-class attendance. So we're really happy about that. I mean, there's still room to improve, but this is, just want to give a shout out to our staff that this is something that we're really working hard and it came from them. Yeah.
So for literacy and numeracy, we started with looking at data because we have the inventories. We collected all that inventory data and then started to look at where we could place kids to try and support them and develop their learning as best as possible. I know that mostly in the grade 8 and 9 classes, they were doing a lot of stuff at the level of the classroom for supporting and bringing up literacy levels. And then we would do some pullouts and different things like that to support some tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. Some staff were trained in UFly, some staff are using Lexia, we're using IXL, and different other interventions. We have kind of gotten started with numeracy, but we're still developing, and that is a big place of growth. We're looking at ways to try to pinpoint where to support a kid in numeracy a little bit easier. IXL was kind of our go-to thing right now because it has a diagnostic assessment that allows you to figure out what level a kid is working at. But there are other ways to do that as well, so we're kind of exploring different other options for that. I think for next year, I'm really excited because we're looking at expanding it a little bit, getting more of the LA resource teachers involved in supporting students with literacy and numeracy. We have a new teacher coming in who's going to focus in on Indigenous literacies and supporting priority learners, which I'm really excited about, and it'll be a great area of development. We also are supporting kids more with the graduation assessments, doing some pre-assessments so they can get a good sense of what they're actually walking into, because those are really tricky, especially the numeracy assessment requires so much literacy development to actually do that really well. So this will be a great place where they'll see some development. Thank you.
Okay, so Kelsey has a number of different academies, including Equestrian Academy, Outdoor Adventure, Hockey Academy, Soccer Academy, Musical Theater, and even throughout my time at Kelsey, I've seen them grow. It's like the Equestrian Academy is fairly new, and we have, it's really actually great because so many students love to do this. So like Outdoor Adventure Academy, I think that's the right one. It can take the place of grade 11 social, spending some time in the classroom and then some time out, and they get to go on these really amazing things. And Equestrian Academy teaches really great discipline, and students learn a lot doing that as well. So it's sort of a great way to, I can't think of the word. It's like doing stuff that works for you in place of like PE and learning, and it can really help you.
Okay, I'll try to keep this short because there is a lot that goes on with student leadership at Kelsey. So student leadership is a new program as of this year. Previously, we were a student parliament, which was kind of a smaller group of students that ran a lot of the same things we do now. So in student leadership, as you can see here, we have a bunch of different committees and what we call chair positions. So there's people in those roles that are responsible for spirit events, fundraising, health and wellness. We also have an Indigenous leadership position, which is very important. And we have athletic council, grad council, blah, 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 all of those other things. A lot of the fun things we do at the school include Super Happy Fun Day, which is our end of year carnival that some of you may know about. We do school dances, we do a lot of spirit weeks, we do fundraising for Terry Fox, which we do every year with the Terry Fox Run. This year we also had a Movember campaign where we had staff campaign to either keep or shave their facial hair, and then we raised $3,000 through that to go to the Canadian Men's Health Association. And we also have like intramurals with the athletic council, and of course grad council does all of their prom and Krispy Kreme and other fundraising things to fund prom. And we also have a communications group that is responsible for changing the school road sign. Some of you may have seen that happen as you're driving up the driveway. And we also have an environmental group that does, they did like a trail cleanup for Earth Day. So the student leadership program was kind of started because myself and a few other students were saying like, we think the student parliament model has to change. We kind of felt like some voices were being silenced, and we wanted everyone to be able to bring their concerns to the table and have their voice heard. And now our leadership program, as you can see in our big group photo, has like 72 students. And so we have a lot of diversity, and everyone's able to share their voice and make a difference in the school community, but also the community at large.
Okay. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about goal three. So the third goal of our festival is providing a program to increase the outcomes for Indigenous learners, children and youth in care, and learners with diverse abilities and disabilities. So this year we've started 2 new programs at Francis Kelsey, and it's really try to meet the needs of all learners. So the first one is a pre-employment program. Our pre-employment program takes students that have diverse abilities and really helps teach them those life skills of numeracy and literacy, but also those skills of going to the supermarket and figuring out having a menu and what you have to buy in the menu and how do you fill that out. Today when I was leaving the school, they were all dressed up, the pre-employment kids, because they had resumes to go deliver to different places. So that's met a real need for our students. But the second program that we have is a soft landing program, and there's a very staged photograph of Mr. Simmons. Very staged. So our soft landing program, what we realized at Francis Kelsey was that not every student was really being successful in the 4-block 18-week semester system, and but they're not really alternate school students either. So they needed a program that they could come to that's a bit more self-paced. These are students that sometimes have a little bit of anxieties or some mental health, some struggles with mental health. So the soft landing program has really been a nice program to meet students where they are, to welcome them, and to create a system where they're not just kind of failing courses in a semester system. So that's, I think both these programs have really helped our students, and we're really thinking of how do we help out our priority populations at Francis Kelsey Secondary School.
Hi, I will be talking about the extracurricular clubs and sports. As you can see, we have quite a few on there. That, surprisingly, is not all of them. We have quite a few different clubs and quite a few different sports. Clubs and sports are available to every single student in Francis Kelsey. It is one of our biggest highlights, I would say. There's a solid list of, I would say, our main ones, but one of the greatest things about Francis Kelsey and the clubs is any student can make a club, actually. As long as you can have a teacher that is willing to support you, you can go and make your club. One that I personally love and is my favorite that was student made is D&D Club. So a lot of those clubs start off with something small and we can grow into quite a large community area. Like, there's kind of, what's the best way to describe it? For example, Rainbow Club. Rainbow Club is such an inclusive area for students, and it's also not a thing you necessarily need to feel pressured to go into. Sports-wise, we have quite a different things. There are some sports academies, but there are always sports clubs that students of all levels can go into. So if you're a beginner, I really want to do volleyball, you can go into volleyball. They generally stretch out across the whole year. Teachers are always available. It's very inclusive. There's some field trips that you get to go on. I know there was recently a track and field one in Port Alberni. So it creates a different sense of community than an academy would, in the fact that anyone can do a club in a sport. So it is, this is what I wrote down on my notes. It gives students a chance to try new things and meet people who might be like them. It's how I met a lot of my close friends. Once again, in D&D Club, I met probably 5 of some of my super close friends that are also in theater. It's an excellent way to meet new people and to discover new ways to do things. So, yeah.
I'm just going to talk about our fourth goal of our festival, greater school community connections and communication. So one of the things we're really looking at is how do we connect with the community better? How do we communicate with the community better? So just some of the things that we're very proud of is our robust school website that Ms. Baker does a great job of that communicating out. We've got our teacher librarian has taken the lead in promoting our school through social media. She's great, Ms. Baker, at the Instagram and all those different social media things, posts and Facebook. We've got our school newspaper, and I think Bella, you got to be part of that school newspaper.
Yes, I'm also the editor of
the school newspaper, which is fantastic. We've got our daily newsletter. We've got our weekly newsletter emailed home to families. We've got the implementation of a leadership program that Bella talked a little about. More school-wide events, Spirit Days, which bring the school together. So that's certainly a growth area that we're trying to look at ways that we can get together as a school a little bit more. And a great example of that is the Terry Fox Run, but there's certainly other chances that we want to get together as a school and build that community. And the last one, whiteboards at the entrance to the school, outlining the day and week activities. I call that the Penny Butler whiteboard that's at the front of the school. She's kind of taking that on. And it's been great, and I love it because she always has a really corny joke of the day on there that the kids love. So that's our fourth goal.
You love it too, Kevin.
I do like it. This is a slide that we have, so a couple of our teachers that are rainbow or SOGI teachers. We've got some candles there, and just remind me those candles, any of those were for?
Transgender Day Remembrance, and then the Robust International Program.
The Robust International Program, and it's really nice, that last photo there is we've got what's called photographic journey. So you come into Francis Kelsey, when you walk in the dome on your left-hand side, you'll see this Malahat mural right here. Up the left-hand side of the stairs, you'll see the life story of Dr. Francis Kelsey. And then on the other side of the stairs, you'll see murals of the Malahat. And I really like that because I feel like our identity of Francis Kelsey Secondary School is a combination of Dr. Francis Kelsey, who is a true hero. If you're looking for a true Canadian hero, Dr. Francis Kelsey is that hero. But also grounded on the right-hand side, you'll see the Malahat teachings and things like that. So I think it's a beautiful way that our school finds our identity. And the last one, I think, final words. It comes on there. And Abby.
Yeah. Okay, so at Kelsey, we're fostering connection, belonging, as well as growth. Through vibrant clubs, academies, and programs, meaningful Indigenous partnerships, mental health initiatives, and inclusive opportunities, we're creating a school where every student feels seen, connected, and supported to thrive. Together, we're building a community with safe spaces and places, ensuring the best life chances for all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Karen.
Schmidt.
First of all, ladies, it's so nice to see so many familiar faces standing up here.
I come here a lot.
Yeah. I was like, oh, hey. It's first district committee, so Trustee Sousa, I don't know if you've been noticed, but we have a climate action student in the room. So it's nice to see you guys, and thank you for sharing your enthusiasm and your excitement about the school. It's always, when you walk in the door, I feel that. Every time I'm at Kelsey. I don't feel anything else but. And you're right, the balance between Dr. Francis Kelsey and the artwork it's beautiful. I've always loved the dome area and it's just always been a nice place for me to sit, and that's why I love district scholarships that are there, because it's just such a warm, beautiful area to be in. But you guys are infectious. I just can't wait to see where you go and what you do, because you are so incredibly involved. And you reach out way further than what you told us today, because some of you we got to know in committee work. But sometimes we sit at this table, and as we put you guys at the center of our table to make our decisions, we always have these questions about kids. And as I sat here today and thought about where you talked about, this is where I made my friends. This is because we built this is what we did. I think sometimes we worry more than what we should, because I think you guys have this under control. We wonder about, how do we do something that includes all? How do we help kids with their mental health? But after what you just said today, you're already on it, and we're way behind you, and we need to catch up. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being great leaders, and thank you for promoting a bigger voice at your school, because I think it's really making a difference. So thank you, kiddos. And thank you for this attendance thing. We've talked a lot about, kiddos are falling behind because of attendance. It's not because they're not smart. It's not because they're, they don't understand. It's because they just have missed so much that they can't catch that back up. And so thanks for digging into that, because we've had those questions a lot. Like, how can we track, how can we do this? And of course we can't, but but it's just showing that you guys are really making that change and making sure that those kiddos are finding their way. And so just thank you for being so firm in that and taking that on, because I know that that's not an easy challenge. And so I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys and all you're doing to make sure that the kiddos have every opportunity, and getting into school is the biggest opportunity. So thank you. I raise my hands to you guys. Well done, kiddos.
Trustee Lise.
I'm great job, and Helen. We have friends in the room. I was actually going to follow through on Trustee Smith's comment on attendance, and I'm just wondering, obviously there's 3 brilliant students who I'm sure show up all the time. But in your efforts, from the student perspective, have the students shared with you what it is that gets them in the door and what it is that stops them from entering the door, that other students could help through the process?
Well, we've talked about things that they've noticed at school, but I'll answer your question specifically. After it's been a bit of a 2-year process, right? So after we rolled it out, this year we started with a survey, and it asks questions like, why do you go to school? And a lot of people, majority of them, were to see friends. And then the second one, which is really heartening, is my parents make me, my family values, right? So the sphere of influence that we have is at the school and with the friendships, and you can leverage those social things. And some of the things that are preventing them from coming to school is really out of a school sphere of influence, right? It's more of a bigger community or mental health issue, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't tackle it, but it does make it feel like we're doing all that we can to help them. And then when I was talking to Abby and Bella specifically, like, what happened? What's the difference between grade 8 and grade 12? Because skipping still happens. But you guys both noticed a big difference in the halls, right? Yeah. And the amount of people in their classes.
Thank you.
Trustee Souza, and then Trustee Thorne, and Trustee Croft.
Good chair. Another wonderful presentation. And again, as I mentioned, so I just wish I could have been there in person to raise my hands to you. And in person, I can't see. I see one head in the bottom of the screen there, and that's about it. But I just, it's very inspiring to see all the great work. What really enriched my high school experience was all the incredible extracurricular activities, and the fact that you've got like a lot of extracurricular activities going on does, I think, create a sense of place and belonging for students. And frankly, it's what saved me. And so it's just so really, really good to see that. The leadership program that you have as well, I think that bodes well for the land that we are on here, as well for the future generation. If you all go away for school, please come back as well. We need your leadership and those of your fellow students as well. The fact you have over 70 as part of that, I mean, that's just fantastic. And as we move forward in life and trying to solve the problems of the world, and certainly here in the Valley, it's through cooperative leadership, right? Individual leaders, but leaders working together, working closely together. And that starts, I think, in school, right? Understanding how interdependent we are, and that leadership takes on different qualities. And so the fact that you're fostering an amazing generation of leaders that work together like that, as opposed to independently, is fantastic. So again, very, very impressed with that. There was one more. And the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I'm so beautiful that you do that. There's been such a backlash against the transgender communities in many places, and the fact that you do take time to remember and to welcome transgendered students, and thinking about those also in the world who have suffered a great deal. Like, we are all so interconnected. We are all deeply human, and to foster those values about belonging, regardless of who we love, regardless of how we are in the world, that we are all together in this, and the fact that you express that in different ways, especially through a Transgender Day of Remembrance, is beautiful. And I raise my hands to you for that as well. And lastly, one question. What is the Foam Smiths Guild? I'm curious about that one. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not personally part of it, but I like to think of it as almost like a really cool part to D&D, but we aren't allowed to call it the Swords Club. As in like all swords. They're foam. Yeah, they're foam. It's not real. But yeah, you get to make fake swords with foam. I just think that
Okay.
It's live action. Have you heard of LARPing? So you go in a small gym.
Oh,
you
yeah,
get together with stuff. You build shields and
Yeah, so that's what that
boxing and wrestling teacher sponsors that, and they have a good time.
That's awesome.
That's
Something to behold.
That's a great name for it. I definitely prefer it to LARPing. It's so awesome. Thank you.
Trustee Thorne.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. You know, like many schools, when I hear Francis Kelsey, Bonner, I don't get the feeling I'm talking to students. We have a word in my house, it's called shalakwa, family. That's how I feel when I look at you kids and listen to you. And you said something that was really important to me. You mentioned data and help assisting kids. That's one key that I wish the majority of schools would do, and then maybe we would have a better tomorrow. So that, and we're getting there. You guys are working hard, and I really appreciate that. You're clear, you're honest, you're forward. You give people faith that I got nothing to worry about, maybe a better tomorrow. So thank you all.
I just wanted to say thank you for the soft landing program. I think alternate school is fantastic. I'm a fan, and I often say that. But I know that having to change schools would probably be a big barrier for some kids. And so having removed that opportunities, I wish you well. I'm just very heartened to hear that. And is it pretty successful so far?
I think so. Yeah. It's been successful. I think we've sort of had to work out sort of what's the referral process? How does a student, come into the soft landing program, and really trying to use our school-based team as that mechanism for, let's try to see if we've done everything we can for the student. Okay, maybe the soft landing is the spot for that student. But yeah, so some students that are in it, they feel really quite grounded there, and they've got that nice relationship with the teacher, and it's been early success, I would say, for the soft landing program.
Is it fair to say it's a bit sideways of sort of the usual processes that you use to deliver?
Yeah, so it would be the delivery is a little bit different because you've got one teacher that's doing many subjects, and it's more of a self-paced. And sometimes some of these students have attendance challenges. So in a semester system, when you have attendance challenges because you might have anxiety or some mental health like that, it's really tough if you miss a number of days in school. And you come into a semester class, and the class has moved on, and you feel lost. When you feel lost, the easiest thing to do is not come back. So with the soft landing program, you come back where you left off because it's self-paced. So I think that's the value of it. It does borrow from what the alternate programs do, but because it has that delivery that's self-paced, and the teacher, Mr. Simmons, is going around and helping students move ahead with their learning, I think that's been successful.
Super individual, and it's not forever. I think that's
good. Yeah. And it's not, and that's really a good point too. It's not forever. So what we're doing right now is we're looking at students that are in the soft landing program. We're thinking, what's the next step? So the hope is that somebody enters the soft landing program, and then they can transition back into regular classes like Francis. So, yeah.
And I have a question for the ladies too, and that as you're all ladies. So,
Not all of us.
Okay, not Joe. So you guys, I think, have really contributed a lot to the leadership group, and the leadership group is new. So do you have any sort of legacy devices so that things fire up again come September?
Okay. So kind of what we're looking at going into September is we want to do this thing called elections where all of the student body, even if you're not part of student leadership, gets to kind of pick who's in those leadership roles, especially picking president and vice president, because that is kind of such a big job. But it is hard to get some people to like vote because they're like, student leadership, like, come on, I have better things to do with my time than vote for like a student who's in charge of the student body. So kind of what we're looking at is getting all of the students who are involved in student leadership right now to start thinking about their roles for next year and who's stepping up into the next Spirit and Events chair and who's stepping up into the next Indigenous chair, because a lot of our students right now are graduating, and we've also started recruiting for next year. So bringing in some of the newer grade 9s and grade 8s who are going to be in grade 9 and 10. Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, there's a plan. Well done.
Any other questions? I have one. Your student leadership council is so large. Do you have a problem getting anything done, or is it fairly easy?
Okay, so kind of the way we operate is we have like 3 main groups. We have clubs, which Mr. Brooks is in charge of, and then we have athletic leadership, which one of our teachers, Mr. Achers, is in charge of, and then we have student council, which kind of has a lot of those other activities, which Myra Jean is in charge of. And so we meet once a week. Athletic council meets on their Wednesdays, and then we meet on our Wednesdays, and then once a month we all come together at the beginning of the month to have a big group meeting and kind of talk about what everyone's doing. So even though student council has all of those committees like fundraising, Spirit and Events, mental health and wellness, we like the bigger committees each meet on separate days. So mental health meets on Tuesdays and Spirit and Events meets on Mondays, and so that way we have, instead of like 70 or 50 students in one room, we have like 10 or 15 or 20. And then we kind of talk about things that we want to do as a committee, and it's easier to get things done in smaller groups. I find that there are some rising leaders in each of those groups, specifically the people in those chair positions do a lot of the work, and that's why they're in those leadership positions.
And when you got a new group coming in next year, do they know a lot about the student leadership committee at Kelsey?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that the students who are still going to be at Kelsey next year will have to take on, is kind of promoting student leadership to those younger students. Because we get credit for the course, but it's only grade 10 to 12, because obviously that's when the graduation program starts. Sometimes it doesn't appeal as much to grade 8s and 9s, but I'm sure you guys and some of the other students at your school and in other schools will have had that leadership experience and might be encouraged to join leadership because they want that same position they had at their schools.
And how does the leadership group get along with the administrative group, your principals and teachers and all that?
It's very good. It's very good. Very good relationship. Well, it's actually nice because I'm there and they share stuff and we support what they do, basically.
I find that our admin team is very open to a lot of the ideas we've had. And that's really great, just being able to be a student and like go knock on their doors and be like, hey, we have this thing. Like the Interact Club recently brought a pie of the teacher in the face thing to the table, and so we've had some staff volunteer to be the victims, and that'll be happening in a couple weeks here. Yeah, it's a fundraiser for the BC Children's Hospital, so you buy a lollipop, you get a ticket to pie a teacher in the face, and then, yeah.
That sounds great fun.
You want a few board members?
I was thinking like supporting the kids financially.
How many $2 can you give, right? You have to buy your way out. That's how it works.
I was just going to say, you do what in your high school, what I do in the community. So what I want is for you to go to university, and I want you to come back and take my job.
Yeah.
You'd be perfect.
Trustee Schmidt. She's volunteering, by the way.
I come out and watch that event go down, and I definitely give you guys some cash too. So email me, you know how to find me. After the superintendent and I did the whole entire district scholarships, and through our committee work and everything else, the first thing I put on my social media when that week was over is we hear rumbles out there all the time. But the first thing I put on my social media is, folks, rest assured that our futures are bright because of all the amazing kids we get to meet every month. Whether our younger generation that are on their way up, I mean, wow. You know, you guys are going to be taking care of us. Well, we're old. And we're getting there, by the way, so don't take too long. But I feel so rest assured in knowing that my future is going to be safe as I get older because you guys are amazing. And it just showed as we wrapped ourselves around the whole entire district that, wow, amazing things are happening. And it's just too bad that we can't just like throw open the doors and let the rest of the world know what amazing things are happening in this district. And you kids are a small part of it, but you just give us so much hope for our future. So, you know, just well done, and keep encouraging and keep leveling up. And when you go off into school, just keep sharing that voice and keep showing people how we did this here in the Cowichan Valley. Because you guys can share with other regions. You guys can show other schools and kids from other districts, what does this look like? Because you are the change right here in the Cowichan Valley. Your voices are rare voices because we know as a board what other districts are doing and how they're approaching student voice. You guys are so uniquely different. And you guys bring this Cowichan region home. And it's because you're not afraid to use your voices. So, well done. Have a good day.
Thank you for coming and.
You really rock. It's like it was nice meeting you. No, your face was thank you. See if she does again. Eduardo, watch the camera. Here comes your climate action. No, right here. Right here. That's the camera right there. Bye, you guys.
Take care.
Wasn't that great?
That was great. Yeah, back to back, wonderful.
What's the rest of the world can see what we see on a regular basis?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for, you know, like my future replacement. These kids are doing in high school.
In elementary school.
Yeah, like coordinating. It's like,
Like, we don't have worries. What's happening in our schools is really quite something. And their voices, they're not afraid to call us out and tell us what's going on. That's what I love. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And then they need to.
That's so good. That's so good.
oh, I missed Eduardo's message. Ding, I got you.
She just got your message.
Oh, okay.
That was a good try.
Right, up next, 5.3 Mill Bay Nature School change, Superintendent.
Through you, Chair. This is just an update, and we follow up, so I'm sharing with the board here at BEBC. This is from Shona Carr, Director of Community Programs at Malahat Nation, and she's indicated that consultation took place with Chief and Council on Thursday, April 30th, and the Chief and Council are pleased to confirm their agreement to change the name of Mill Bay Nature School back to Mill Bay Elementary. So it's just a follow-up and passing it on this week, and it'll be brought forward next week just for your consideration.
Thank you. Crofton Shemanis grade 7 reconfiguration
Sorry.
update.
I had a question before we go on to the next
Sorry,
item.
question.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. So that's good to hear. I'm wondering if Cowichan Tribes has also been consulted with, because one of the key families involved in the programming early on and right through to the ending of Mill Bay Nature School was Ron George and his family. And in fact, the ongoing sort of involvement on a regular basis at Mill Bay was for Cowichan Tribes folks. So I'm wondering if Cowichan Tribes has also been consulted, and will they be consulted? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair, Cowichan Tribes hasn't been consulted. Direction from the board was to go to the Malahat Nation and present the information that the packet brought forward from Mill Bay Nature School. Yeah, thank you.
That's pretty much Mill Bay Tumuk anyway.
Okay, thank you. Up next, Crofton Chemainus Grade 7 reconfiguration update. Associate
Superintendent, Darlene Reynolds.
We'll move down here, but then Trustee Sousa can't see me as well. I can put my hand here somewhere.
That's what they want to see. Did you want to see?
Yes.
Let's see if we can make it a little bigger.
Okay. I-Squale, that's not really detailed that you need to be able to read all the words, but we will get it for you. But I-Squale, Muckwait, good afternoon, good day, respected friends. It's good to see you all today. I thank you for the opportunity to give you a brief update with the Crofton Chemainus Community Schools reconfiguration with keeping our grade 7 students at their home elementary school. So this brings I think full circle back to where we started in January with policy 14, where you as a board committed to doing this process and considering school reconfigurations with a very transparent, open way with lots of collaboration with our community. So I have to give gratitude and appreciation to Superintendent Davey, who helped with the draft of our terms of reference that outlined the process that we've been going through with maintaining that spirit of collaboration that you set for us when we had the community engagement processes. We've continued that as we've worked through the details to get ready for our grade 7s to not leave to go to Chemainus Secondary, but to stay at their elementary schools. So we have hosted 2 meetings currently out of 3 potential meetings with our stakeholders groups to have conversations with them around all the elements that impact this retention or staying at the schools. And this includes staffing. So we're happy to share with you that we have 2 additional divisions that will be remaining at Chemainus Elementary next year, and 1 additional at Crofton. 2 grade 7 teachers. So the grade 7 teachers at Chemainus Secondary had first opportunity to take the grade 7 or 6-7 splits of the elementary schools. And 2 of them did elect to do that, so they will be joining the staff at Chemainus Elementary. And another part of that process is also then looking to see, are our facilities ready to welcome or contain our grade 7 students? One thing that we recognized, and it was one of the pros and cons, if you remember, it wasn't 100%, yes, do this, but there were things to consider from both sides. One of the cons or stretches for us with doing it this fall, I think one of the phrases that came out in both of our consultation group was rip the bandage off and do it. So with doing it that way, or doing it this fall, Chemainus Elementary is quite full next year. So we will have to utilize both portables on site to host 18 divisions at Chemainus Elementary in the fall, which does, we have to ask our Chemainus Crofton Community Schools Association to vacate one of the portables they've been utilizing for before school and after school care. We are still very equipped and committed to ensuring that CCSA has that opportunity to continue to provide all those spots for the learners in the building. But they will be returning to the gym. And through consultation with the board, I think it was 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago sometime, you did give us permission to go ahead and pursue minor capital to hopefully, if we are receive those funds, we'll be able to purchase a gym divider and have it installed to support that. We also recognize that in a working group meeting, it's really difficult to get to lots of details about if we have a book sale in the gym, where will before school and after school go? So I've asked the school principals to meet directly with CCSA and Sarah Foster to really develop those letters for me to use and not get them mixed up just a little bit. We also did invite our district principal of instruction and innovation, Glenn Posey, to join us for the last meeting. And he gave us an update on technology because we want to make sure that those portables, the classrooms, the teachers, the students have all the technology they need when they walk in the door in the fall. So this next week, they'll be completing an audit and making sure all the work orders are in place, that is ready for our students. The other is working with facilities, Zim, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name, but our facilities manager joined us and gave us an update on making sure that the 2 portables are ready for the students at Chemainus Elementary. So just to give you a few numbers, I know how much you guys love data. This current year at Chemainus Elementary, 317 students and 16 divisions. In the fall, Chemainus Elementary will have 358 students in 18 divisions. And Crofton Elementary this year had 155 students, 8 divisions. In the fall, we'll have 181 students and 9 divisions. So lots of space for the learners in the buildings. We are ready for the grade 7s to remain there. We are not finding a lot of questions coming from families or communities. They're all mostly celebrating. There are a few students that are slightly disappointed they're not going to the high school, but overall the transition and preparation is really going well. And I hope that represents the transparency and collaboration, the tone that you set with Policy 14. And again, thank you to Superintendent Davey for outlining the terms of reference that you have. Sure, you have any other questions? Or?
Questions?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Now, can you remind me, I know that when we talked about Chemainus Elementary being full in the fall, but somewhere in my memory, that was only going to last for about a year because of decline, right? Yes. So it won't be quite so full the year after. Am I correct?
That's the projection. Next year is slightly lower enrollment in 17 divisions, but we have to see how many students actually show up. But the projections indicate declining enrollment.
Okay, so it'll just be the 1 year where they'll be nice and snuggly. Okay, thank you.
Questions? I have a question. The kids who really wanted to go to the high school, why is that? Why did they tell you that?
The students, through the chair, the students who wanted to go to the high school had friends that were already there, so they were excited to go join their friends, and they were also aware of some of the exploratory opportunities that are available at the secondary school, and so they were looking forward to that. But I will say, from what I'm hearing from the teachers and the principals, once the decision was made and they started making plans, the students are really settled into this, and now they're looking forward to getting to have 2 years as the most mature students in the building.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
Most welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, business and operations, Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you, Chair. Just bringing up the agenda on the screen here. I have included in the package probably the last projection that we'll prepare this year as we're getting close to year end. So this one was prepared as of May 15th, 2026 and contains some significant variances that the last one didn't. So what you will now see in this projection is the February count funding, as well as the labor settlement funding for teachers and exempt staff. We have tested the labor settlement funding against our budget, and believe it is sufficient, almost precisely sufficient to cover the teacher increases and exempt increases. So that was good news. Often we've looked at that and seen very large variances, but it was really, really close. So to start off here, the top line now shows a variance in the provincial grant at 2.147 million. 1.82 of that is the labor settlement funding. So it's now in revenue, but it wasn't in our budget because we didn't have it in the budget. The other component of that is about $318,000 for the February count. So it came in $318,000 above what was expected. The rest of the variances there are relatively similar to what you've seen before, with international program performing at $229,000 above budget. And you remember that you made a slight adjustment to those revenue expectations in next year's budget based on the last couple of years there. So overall, on the revenue side, we see $2.55 million better than budget, mainly driven by the labor settlement funding and the February count. And then moving on, this is where you're going to see overspends in principals of $178,000. That's because even though this has not been paid, I have projected the wage increases for the principal vice principal group that have been approved by BCPC, anticipating that they will be paid by the end of the year because they'll be paid on June 15th. I've also incorporated the retro pay and the new rates forward on the teacher salary. So you see $1.16 million in variance. So we're overspending by $1.16 million. But that's offset by that labor settlement funding I showed you in the very first part of this presentation. The education assistants, clerical, and USW variances, there are no wage increases in this projection for those groups. Those groups are still bargaining, have unratified agreements, and will only be incorporated once those agreements are ratified. But we know the provincial framework is for 3%, but there's no funding to support that at this time. Excluded or over by $55,000, and that is because, again, the labor settlement funding that's been approved by BCPC for that group. You'll see a much smaller casual replacement because that is mainly teachers being the larger cost of that group. And I have incorporated 3% pay into those numbers. So the funding that has been received for the labor settlement also covers teachers teaching on call. And so that number is smaller because it incorporates 3% wage increase retroactive to the start of our school year. And then those get incorporated into the employee benefits. So you see an overspend there of $96,000 because some of those benefits are affected, like pension, and a little bit for CPP if a teacher hasn't reached maximum CPP pension contribution limits in their salary. So not much change then to report on services and supplies. We are actually projecting really close on utilities, even though it was a warmer winter. That is due to a very high cost on the new Cowitson secondary building that I'll explain that should be disappearing in next year's budget. There is a demand charge on the hydro in that facility. So what that means is there was one day in February of last year when they were testing systems, and I presume the doors were open, and we had this massive surge in the amount of electricity used on that day. We have to pay to hold that capacity for the entire year. And so I think that will disappear in the next year because the builders aren't doing that work which they had done immediately around the HVAC system. So yeah, but the border also have significant holding costs on the old school as well. So I think it'll come back in line, but even though it was a warm winter, there's a couple of anomalies in the utilities budget, but it is tracking on budget. And then you see a bit of a variance here on transfer to capital of $26,000. There was a van that needed to be replaced, and a replacement was found for Whitefleet. So you know, it had 25,000 kilometers on it, and it was a 2024 white cargo van, and we couldn't pass it up. It was significantly less than we were expecting to spend on a new van, so that had to be put into place to address One of the ones that you see driving down the road with no paint and no floorboards. So overall, the last time I showed you this variance, it was just over 1.4 million, and it's now at 1.645. So it's moved a bit, mainly predominantly based on the February count. But I will also say that April was a little higher in use of absenteeism dollars, like not just the retro, but actual usage. April was a bit of an outlier month than what we were expecting. So in better shape going into, if that comes true, when we prepare the year end, because of course there's a projection, in better shape than we thought at the last projection.
Questions, Trustee Croft?
Could you remind me, what are the costs of holding the old couch in secondary building?
What are the specific components of it, or what is the dollar amount?
The dollar amount.
We're estimating that it's close to $100,000. Predominantly utilities, still has water, the field's being utilized, still by the old school, or by the new school.
Is there a certain aspect, I mean, like you have to keep the heat on because you can't let the pipes freeze and all that,
Yeah.
just to keep it, fine.
And then, there's fence rental, and we still have to mow and maintenance, and yes.
Any other questions? Okay, carry on.
Okay, moving on, included in your package, we'd like to present the 3-year financial plan. This will be submitted to the ministry, and this supports the board's strategic priorities, the 2025, 2023 board strategic plan. So this is a little document that we put together that is short and precise. This will be posted to our website, and as I said, submitted to the ministry. It's not something that needs to be adopted. When we get to the final financial plan over the next 3 years, that's a document that the board have already seen through the budget process. So this is all the work that went into that. So we describe how the board creates the budget, the alignment to strategic priorities and what they are. There you are. We are transparent on what the budget timelines are in this process. You'll see those there as well. All the meetings that you hold, all the presentations that we provide, all the consultations, and new to the plan is the consultation and implementation and recommendations with the Home of Esteem Education Council. That is a newly formed group that provided much more feedback in this cycle than previously, which is part of their mandate. All that to see a budget adopted in May so that the implementation of the staffing plan can take place. We talk about what the different types of funds are. So the public may not know that the budget is consolidated between operating, special purpose, and capital funds, and what you might find in those various funds. We talk about how the budget fits into the strategic priorities, at least we try to. So we highlight some of the areas where we see the budget focusing on your strategic priority goals. And you see this as well through the budget cycle, but this is just a way to see it on one page. We look at multi-year planning, and we try to, this is a slide so the public can see that enrollment peaked in 2023, 2024 in recent years, and has been on a decline and projected further decline. So blue is actual, yellow is projected, which is this year because we still haven't got the May count, and then we look into the future years as to what we thought enrollment would be. Then we talk about the grant and how this year's grant, or the grant we budgeted for 26-27, did not have any wage increases in it, which means that funding for next year's wage increases, when it arrives, will come outside of the per pupil amount. It kind of comes on the side as a separate line item, which means that it will be in the 27-28 that we get 3 years of funding, or the board get 3 years of funding in 1 year in the per pupil. So you're going to see it go way up from my projection from 9,015 to 9,950 to fund those wage increases. So this is a projected per pupil rate. And I'll use that rate in the projections as we move out into the future. We talk about the international student program revenue. You can see where it's been over the last number of years and where it's projected to be. And then we look at the staffing numbers. So we show over 10 years the number of employees we see per FTE in the operating budget. I know that's small on the screen, but it is a nice way to track the variances of ups and downs with the various employee groups over time. And then when it comes to salary costs, we projected 3% wage increases because we know that that's been settled with the unionized workers. But we also know that for this year, exempt staff were permitted 2.5%, and we've used that rate moving forward even though it hasn't been approved. It's just for projection purposes and for revenue purposes. And we project our substitute costs forward. So you can see that where they've been, where they've come from. So look at how much that's increased over time. And I think we mentioned that right now it sort of appears to have leveled off, and have projected that out with a little bit of leveling off. And of course, that'll be affected by wage increases that we'll bring into those budgets in the future. And then it all wraps up with the multi-year operational forecast summary. Again, we reference the bargaining frameworks and the projected salaries for non-unionized staff, but we also use a factor of 2% for services and supplies for inflation. And so what does it look like if we take the current budget and we inflate it, services and supplies by 2%, and we inflate the wages? We get this document that you did see in your budget package as we were working through the 2026-2027. We're able to project out revenues to 27-28 and 28-29. So you see that big grant increase, even though enrollment's projected to drop from 94 million to 100 million, then 101 or almost 102 million. That's because the wage settlements are going to be in those rates, and we see that now being funded. And then we move forward here and we look at the wages, and they're going to jump as well. Benefit rates, so we show a slight decrease there because the wage influence benefits are predominantly just pension, not health benefits. And then we put it into our services and supplies, those inflation rates. And what you see is that this year's budget was balanced on 2.563 million. I don't know if my mouse shows up here. Kind of does. Yep. Okay, I get that. Oops. Sorry, now I've got it all highlighted. Okay. Yeah, so this was what was used this year. So if all inflationary pressures continue without ministry funding, 4 million potentially required next year, 5.6 the year following, and the surplus begins to disappear pretty quickly, as you can see there. So this was prepared before the new surplus projection that you just saw tonight, where it was 1.14, which is right here. We haven't updated it because this isn't a dynamic document, it's at a point in time. And at that point in time that this was prepared, we had a surplus projection of 1.4, so it's got a couple $100,000 a little bit better in the future. So that's a document we'll submit to the ministry and post, and it's what we've been, kind of seen over time, and what everybody's been talking about is that it's great to have wages funded by the ministry, not so great when the benefits don't follow, and not so great when the services and supplies also don't receive any funding. Okay.
Trustee Schmidt.
Mr. Sakis, I want to say thank you for the document because it lays it out so beautifully that I know at the last DPAC meeting I was at, and they had a lot of questions about budget, and I really believe that there's a lot more clarity within this document that everybody will be able to understand. And so I just want to say thank you for laying it out differently so that everybody can get a better handle on what we're doing and what that looks like and what does it all mean, because I know it often gets confused with special purpose grants and capital versus operating, and so I just want to say thank you for how you've laid it out and made it more reader friendly, so thank you.
Questions?
I have a question, but back up to Mill Bay Nature School, so when we're ready.
Okay, and there's no other questions on that. Thank you, Mr. Sandquist. You make budget very easy for us. We appreciate it. Okay, let's go back to questions on
apologize, sorry, I just, you know how when things are going on in a meeting and you have time to kind of digest. And to Trustee Sousa's comment about Cowichan Tribes and the changing of the name of Mill Bay Nature School, understanding the families that were involved in that process. Maybe it's not consultation, but is there a way that the district could reach out to Cowichan Tribes to share that this change is coming so that it doesn't come from behind, and that they're informed about the upcoming change, just out of due respect?
I believe the superintendent will handle that for you, just to make sure that's up, so they know, because I do know that in the original motion, when we looked at that, when the superintendent and I had a conversation, it was just Malahat.
Yeah, I recall.
And so that's why only Malahat was consulted, but I do acknowledge what Trustee Sousa said as well, and I hear you, and I'm sure that because the superintendent and secretary treasurer do meet with Cowichan Tribes quite a bit, I'm sure that that would be an issue.
Oh, Eduardo. Question, Trustee Sousa.
Yeah.
He's on the move.
Sorry, my laptop's down to 3%. So I'm just like frantically trying to find the power bar. Anyway, I support that. Like, you know, there's no point in calling the school something that it isn't any longer. But for me, and I thought I had mentioned in a previous meeting that Cowichan Tribes should be consulted because the family that was involved with the school was Cowichan Tribes family. And of course, it got family links at the Malahat and whatnot, but at the very least, should have been both nations. And if nothing else, like, yeah, some sort of, you know, notice or something out of respect for that. And so I would support that because I was going to vote against this next week on that basis, that I don't think there was a proper sort of due process that happened here in terms of both nations being consulted / notified. So I'm okay with this idea of Cowichan Tribes being notified about this. Thank you. And therefore, I'll support it next week. Thanks.
Thanks. Trustee Thorne.
I can see advising Cowichan Tribes that there is a name change because it is recognized as Malahat. And other than my cousin, we had other cousins from Malahat working at the schools. And I can't say my cousin's name because we have not had his memorial. And it's a courtesy that until it's done, we don't physically say the name out loud. That's a teaching that we really strongly carry. And I wanted everybody here to remember and understand that.
Okay, on to committees, highlights of the May 19th Advisory Committee meeting. Trustee Croft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we had the check-in from everybody, and there are some pretty exciting things going on, from sailing classes and all kinds of land-based activities, including the check-in for, including Dairy Oak Forest Research, welcoming back the blueboards, and a couple of salmon releases. There were a ton of celebratory events as school communities, kids, teachers, families all gathered together to honor the joy and community contributions that happen all year long. There were continuing professional development opportunities for parents through through the provincial PAC organization, and of course through the unions as well for their members. Jen Calverley, who we also had visiting today, she's also, as well as being Principal of Honor, she is a district literacy lead, and she presented some preliminary FAS results with some very encouraging increases in literacy rates across the district. Information which I believe is still embargoed for a few weeks yet. So people were pretty excited. And I don't think everybody had seen the stats from their particular school, so we had one gentleman who was pretty stoked about, he had the highest number, so that was good news. We let everybody know that last week was the last meeting of the year. People very sadly agreed to that. They thought they could get through June without gathering together because it's such a busy month, and we'll look forward to gathering again in September. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And
this being the last BEBC meeting of the year, I believe, I'd just like to take a moment to thank Superintendent, Secretary, Treasurer, Michelle, and all our wonderful staff, and Morris for making this meeting run very smoothly and very easy for us. So thank you very much for that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Sorry, I was just going to say, I just wanted to express appreciation for our chair, who stick-handled us through many meetings and did a great job of making sure everybody had a chance to speak and a chance to listen. So, thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Trustee Schmidt, Trustee Lise, all in favor? Motion carried. We will see you next week. Thank you.
Well.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
It's going okay.